Oh, you're live now right now? Okay. All right. Would you be able to hold this for like a minute or so? Like as it's going? Sorry about that. Okay. We're going to go live, okay?
Okay.
All right. 1, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Sadie Dingfelder with the Washington Post, and we're here at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum because we're very excited. The USS Enterprise is making its debut today. It was just restored, and it has moved from the gift shop to the up here, the main atrium. So we're going to talk to Margaret. How do you say your last name?
Whitecamp.
Thank you. Margaret is the one who decided to make the move for the Enterprise. How come?
Well, we wanted a permanent space for the studio model of the Enterprise, and we thought the new Boeing Milestones of Flight Hall, which is opening today and this week, July 1st, would be a perfect place for it. It's really where we showcase some of the milestones of the museum, introduce our visitors to what we have here, and if we were going to have an artifact that talked about inspiration and imagination, how could you do better than the Special Enterprise?
Great, well, let's take a look. What has been restored? What's new? The lights are new.
The lights are new, and putting the new LEDs in and really restoring this back to what it would have looked like when it was shooting is, I think, an important thing. We did a ton of research. We had about 60 people, we think, in all working on this in various parts of the project, and really helping us bring this back to what it would have looked like in August or September of 1967, which is right at the end of when they finally finished with this shooting model.
So I think it will look a little green to a lot of viewers. Why is that?
It might look a little bit of green in person. It'll look a little bit gray on your screen because that's part of the magic of the color choice that they went with. It looks a little greener in person, it looks a little grayer on screen, and this is, as a shooting model, really designed mostly just to get a beautiful shot on the camera.
So the two sides are different. Is this the shooting side or the not shooting side?
We're looking at the camera-ready shooting side, the starboard side, if you will, the right side of the vehicle. And this is always what faced the camera. So if you picture Star Trek in your head and the Enterprise zooming across your screen, you've always seen it come from the left side to the right side. And that's because this is the orientation of the model. Around the back, it has much less decoration, and in fact it has wires coming out the back which would have been used and are still being used today for the motors and the lights.
Why didn't you use the original sort of studio incandescent lights within the spaceships?
We never really had access to the original studio lights. They were taken out by the museum in 1974 because they really wanted to display this as the Enterprise, not necessarily as a shooting model. So we are in some ways restoring it to what the artifact originally was. And also those lights actually are so hot, we can see on the third little window in, there's a dot on that window. That's where it was scorched by the light that was right behind it. So the plex there still has a little bit of a burn mark from when the original lights got too hot. So for a museum artifact, we've gone with LEDs, which allow us to tune the temperature of the light, but also just are much more conservationally appropriate, lower temperature, and better for the artifact.
So I heard that there's some writing on the model that you guys found through x-rays?
When we were looking at this, we were really looking at, with the x-rays, at the structure of the model. And then one of the things that we did was also very carefully document all of the original markings to make sure that when we were putting things back, some of these windows and things are physical artifact that allows the light to shine through, and some of them are just painted on. And we wanted to make sure that every mark was exactly where it was supposed to be. We in fact had a gentleman who helped us out who counted every hole in the phone nacelle. There are, I believe, 952 holes. We have it exactly.
Where are the 952 holes?
On the insides of the engines, there are strips that look like grills for the engines. On one side, there's an actual physical grill. On the other side, they faked it up because they knew no one would ever see that very well. And when we wanted to reproduce that, he went back to original pictures and figured out that we needed 952 holes to make the look just right.
So tell us about the new deflector dish.
The new deflector dish is something that actually, as we were going back to historic photos, we were able to really recreate this exactly as it looked when it was being shot. When the model was delivered in 1974, that deflector dish, which is a rather delicate part, got broken. And it was replaced with a replacement part, which the fans pretty quickly let the museum know was not exactly right. In our internal parlance, it started to be called the salad bowl. This one is exactly right. The tone of the little spine that comes out, the spire that comes out, is very slightly different than the dish. We know that's original, or how it would look like in the original.
Cool. Well, is there anything else that we should know about this awesome model?
I think mainly that it is here in the whole Boeing Milestones of Flight Hall, which is the introduction to the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum. And so this is here as just one piece out of several dozen pieces that introduce visitors to the National Air and Space Museum, that tell stories of jet aviation, of telecommunications, of space exploration, both human and robotic with probes. And I think the Enterprise really has found a good home in the company of those artifacts.
What's new in this exhibit hall?
What's really new in this exhibit hall is that we've moved the lunar module into the main space, and if you come to see us, you'll see that the Enterprise is in a kind of one-story space on the south lobby. The big multi-story glass atrium on the other side has John Glenn's Friendship 7. It has Spaceship One. It has two new jet engines that we've brought in, and so it really is in the company of icons of aviation and space flight.
Well, do we have any questions on the internet?
Not yet.
No, nothing?
Yeah.
Okay, well, should we do anything else, or are we done?
Do we have anyone else to talk to?
We can talk to Malcolm.
Yeah, let's grab Malcolm if he's around.
I'm looking at
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're done. Oh, we got Malcolm now.
yeah, he's switching out. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so here is Malcolm Collum. He is the mastermind restorer. What's his title?
Chief Conservator.
Chief Conservator. And this ship has been in your care for 2 years, right?
About a year and a half, yeah. And we really didn't launch into the hands-on work. That's about 6 months ago. So up until then, we spent most of the time doing historical research, trying to track down historical images, getting in touch with folks that had any sort of experience with model in the past. So once we sort of gathered up all that information, we really felt confident to start to lay hands on it.
So you guys actually reached out to the Star Trek community to get these pictures that help?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I like to say is the smartest part of this whole restoration project is bringing in advisory. So we really thought there's no way that we're going to just sort of educate ourselves in all the subtle details of the Star Trek phenomenon. So it was best to sort of tap into that community and bring out the people that really are well known and have that expertise. So they were the most incredible source of information. Let's get this done.
Can you show us some of the finer points that people can only see in person, or they wouldn't be able to necessarily get out of pictures, like the writing, don't step here kind of
right,
things?
yeah, sure. There's tiny little decals that you see down here and there. Tailpipe socket adjustment, so these sort of cheeky decals that I'm sure the model makers thought were very funny at the time, and they knew that the camera was never going to pick it up, so it was really sort of an inside joke. The best thing about it is the fact that we have it completely lit up, and the nacelles spinning, and it's done properly. There was a lot of debate that was back and forth about the blink rate for the navigation lights, and if you look in different episodes and even different scenes within the same episode, you will see different blink rates. It's all about how fast the film is moving in that particular shot. So a lot of these debates went back and forth, trying to find the right solution. It was part of the essence of having this advisory committee, was to let them sort of hash that out and come to some consensus.
So these spinning nacelles, how were they originally created, and how did you recreate them?
Well, originally they were a very clever assembly of literally Christmas lights that you would decorate your tree with, embedded into the funnel and cell, and then they had little broken up pieces of mirror to help break up the Christmas light effect. And so I think that's what Roddenberry was really thinking about, was he wanted this image of swirling energy, this kind of mysterious visual effect, and how to sort of capture that. Put this idea into reality was the biggest challenge. And there's also a motor that would be in the middle, and that drives this inner cone that has these different divides that helps with that spinning effect. And so the biggest challenge for us was converting it over to LED system. Was how do we replicate that effect? This is where we brought in some experts who really do this on a day-to-day basis from Industrial Light Magic. And so they came up with their own design using LED viscous lights, pieces of mirror. Basically, it's following the original format. It's just using the same technology. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of debate about the spin rate, and do they spin to the left or to the right, will they spin inwards? All of these things, you'll see different variations of different pieces.
So are they spinning clockwise or counterclockwise?
They're spinning towards the center,
Oh, okay.
and that's how they looked in Trouble with Tribbles.
Why was Trouble with Tribbles the touchstone episode?
Well, because that's really the last major change that happened. So we know it's well documented. Space algae is sort of the stress reflection you see in the saucer, and the secondary cells, the latest modifications to the lighting. So it's really the last point in the ship's history that was described before.
So what part of the paint is original?
The top surface on the saucer, and that doesn't include the bridge. The bridge was repainted several times in the past, and the under surfaces of the saucer was repainted as well as the rest of the entire ship. But if you look at the top of the saucer, you'll notice there's a distinctly different tone. It has a warmer tone, and at first we thought, well, the original, the entire ship was done that way, but thankfully we found images from the early 70s that really capture in color film that differentiation between the top of the saucer and the rest of the ship. It doesn't really make sense, but when you step back, it almost sort of goes together. It's this nice color, it's this overriding finished tone, which is used to basically compensate for the very intense studio lights.
And what is the ship made out of?
It is a combination of large wooden structures. So the secondary hull is made up like a wooden barrel. It has wooden staves that run the length with these different bulkheads. The struts here, those are solid planks of poplar wood. The nacelles are solid wood, or basically assemblies of glued together wood in the front, and then towards the back is hollow rolled steel sheet to give this very graceful taper towards the rear. The dorsal is also an assembly of wooden components that make the link to the saucer. And the saucer is it's blow molded plastic. There's also fiberglass in there, and then inside of that sandwich between the upper and lower halves is a wooden structure. And all of that is well secured. I'm actually amazed at how well connected the saucer is to the dorsal, to the secondary hull. That's actually the strongest point of the entire model. And then the bridge section it's kind of funny. It's carved out of this just crude chunk of poplar wood. When you turn it over, you just see this big gouge in it. It just looks like something they pulled off a trash heap. But, they spent a lot of time carving it to the shape of this.
In all the research you guys did you come across anything like funny or surprising? For instance, I read that maybe Gene Roddenberry was inspired by
I'm not familiar with that. Margot might be able to tell you more about that, but I haven't heard that.
Okay. I might have made that up. Great. Well, I think
we got a question from Periscope.
Okay.
How long did it take to build? Which I guess is how long did it take to restore? And how much did it cost, if you can reveal that?
Oh, well, the cost was actually very reasonable. I mean, thankfully, almost all the work was done in-house by NASA staff. The advisory committee donated their time to the project. The Industrial Light and Magic folks also donated their time. They came out for a period of 2 weeks to do the final subtle shadowing and apply the decals and all the other markings on the ship. So we just paid for their travel and hotel expenses. So, I mean, I haven't tallied up the final cost, but it's actually very reasonable. And it turned out great. It's amazing. It's really trying.
And Jim Shippey on Facebook asked, what's the blink rate? Which
The blink, the actual blink rate, I do not know off the top of my head. But it was a source of debate that went on.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you notice, the blink rate in the saucer is different from the little indicator light at the rear end of the second.
Great. Well, thank you guys for joining us online, and thanks so much to Malcolm for telling us about all of your work.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This is Sadie D. Calder from the Washington Post, signing off. What does Star Trek say? I don't know.
Live long and prosper.
What is it?
Hailing frequencies closed.
Hailing frequencies closed.
There you go. The Periscope's still on.
Great. That was fun. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, great job.
Oh.